Right, hello everyone, and if you can't tell from this biannual carry-on, it's transfer deadline day, and for once, actually, Celtic are in a really good position this transfer deadline day, and it seems like we're going to do a bit of business. It's kind of the best of both worlds. We're going to get onto all of that in today's video. We're also going to chat about last night's comprehensive 4-1 victory away to Ross County. We changed 9 out of the 11 players. Didn't seem to matter at all. We're going to touch on all of that, a few other things as well, and I'm going to get through it as quickly as possible for a number of reasons. Number one reason, it may not actually look like it, but wearing a suit cramped into this chair with a camera and mic in front of me isn't particularly comfortable, believe it or not. Also, I've had, I think, about 4 hours sleep last night, but we'll get on to that in a wee second. John and Stevie were on the reaction last night after the victory over Ross County, and strangely enough, I actually agreed with a lot of what they said. For me, the big takeaway after the game was that doner kebab I had. But seriously, it was Sead Haksabanovic for me, and the level of his performance. I mean, right away he looks like an absolute gem. How good did he look when he came on? Look, he's not going to start on Saturday against Rangers. I highly doubt he'll start against Real Madrid either, barring a injury crisis. But if you're asking me, could he come on in those games as a substitute to inject even more life into a performance, cause the opposition more issues, then 100%. I think he looks a real star, albeit having only seen him for 15 minutes. But that was my main takeaway. Agreed with the guys on Aaron Moy as well. He would probably have been my man of the match from last night, between him and probably Ralston or maybe David Turnbull, but I just thought the way Aaron Moy controlled that game, just more of what we've seen really, but obviously did it for longer last night. Just so calm in possession. The amount of times he'll get the ball in the centre circle and he'll be facing a particular way, and 99 out of 100 players probably just play a pass there, but he will turn and find a guy who's in a much better position. I just love watching him, so easy in the eye, and it was great to see him perform. Again, I wouldn't be starting him against Rangers or Real Madrid, but is he someone who can come on in those games and inject a bit of life, give us a bit of control back, or even take the sting out of the game? Then 100% I think so. I think that's great because he can offer us all three of those things, and that will make him a really important, squad player this season. But I think he'll start lots of games like he did last night, and he can clearly cope with the pace of a game like that. So delighted with Aaron Moy. I was really low in the stand last night, as you tend to be at Ross County's ground. I think I was row F, which is obviously 6 rows from the front. And when you're that close to the pitch, it really hits home how hard the Celtic players work. Dyson Maida sprinting towards the ball, and he goes with such intent. And yeah, you get it on the telly a little bit, and you get it at games as well, obviously, but when you're that close to the action, it's a joy to behold. And I thought the intensity that we played at last night was brilliant. So many players coming in, keen to impress, keen to try and get into Ange's plans, and it's just all going so well at the moment, but obviously bigger challenges to come. Fans were brilliant last night as well. Really good turnout, really good atmosphere as well, as Jota and Rail would surely agree with this, clapping along. And even though getting back down the road was a bit of a pain, with the Keswick Bridge, I think it's called, being shut, and the detour adding on, about an hour and a half to our journey. Got back, I think, about 3 o'clock, got to sleep about 3:30. It was still, such an enjoyable trip, and Celtic really, made it everything it was as well. And the atmosphere, as I say, was tremendous and great to get into the next round. Now, just before I move on, a couple of very quick shout-outs. First of all, to Lewis, who I was at the game with last night from Forres. Hell of a nice guy. It was my first time meeting him, actually, at the game last night. He actually owns a bakery in Forres that I can vouch for, having just 10 minutes ago scranned one of the lasagna pies. He brought a wee goodie bag for me last night. I mean, hit the jackpot or what. McLean's Highland Bakery he owns, so I would definitely check that out if you're in Forres. Great guy, and Great Scran. Also, Stephen, who I met from Forest, nice to finally meet him, and the guy who has no name as far as I'm concerned. He was in the row behind me, slightly to the left last night, watches the channel, and I promised I would give him a shout out. So, brilliant, guys. Hope you enjoyed your night, and hope everyone else that went or even watched on telly enjoyed their night as well. Last day of the Cup, by the way, this is what the ties look like. We were last out of the hat, and we'll take on Motherwell. That will be sandwiched between a home game against Hibernian and a trip to Tynecastle. You would certainly expect Rangers and Aberdeen to be in the semis. Hopefully we can join them, but certainly a fair bit of football to be played before that tie at Fir Park. Now, on to transfer chat, and as always, these things change very quickly on deadline day, so what I'm saying right now may look very foolish in a few hours. It'll probably look foolish anyway, to be honest. One thing that we do know, can say with a lot of certainty, is that Albion Ajeti has left the building. He is signed for Sturm Graz on a season-long loan with an option to buy. That was confirmed yesterday. Ange was asked about it by BBC Scotland before the match last night. He said Albion was probably one of a number of players who got caught in between periods. They came in at a really difficult time for the club. Through the COVID experience as well, I can just imagine it would have been very hard for new players to settle in at that time. Then I come along and we change direction again. Albion's a good player, he just needs an opportunity. My role in that is just to make sure they have an opportunity to play their football. Just because they don't fit in here doesn't mean they can't have a really strong career somewhere else. So that is fair enough. Ajeti going out on loan to Sturm Graz, who are in the Europa League, and hopefully moves permanently to them in a year's time. Even chat about a 2 million price being discussed, so that would be good from our point of view, even though we paid far more than that for him. Another player in a similar category, is Mikey Johnson. At the moment, it very much seems like he will be joining Portuguese side Vitória de Guimarães on a season-long loan. No option to buy, apparently. That's not been confirmed, but I get the impression it's more of a development loan rather than Celtic trying to get rid of Mikey Johnson. Kind of a make or break time for him, to be honest. I think getting away from Celtic and even Scotland might be a good thing for him. Hopefully he can just seize that opportunity. Again, they're quite a decent team. They're obviously not at the level of, the top teams in Portugal, but they're kind of a level below. So he should be playing in a pretty attacking team that will score goals, you would hope. They finished in the European positions last year. So hopefully that goes well for him. That should be confirmed later today, we would think. So this summer has been quite a productive one in terms of moving players on. We've moved all of these players on permanently. We've moved on Afolabi, Bolingoli, Connell, Dembele, Duhan, Julian and Moffat. There are others as well, but this is just the kind of obvious ones. Plus, we've moved out the following on loan with options to buy for most: Ajeti, Barkas, Soro, Uragidi. I think only Barkas's deal doesn't have an option to buy out of those four. And we've also sorted development loans for Scales, Montgomery, Kenny, and seemingly Johnston as well. It has been a productive month in terms of moving on players who aren't going to feature under Ange. Also chat that Liam Shaw could be sent out on loan before the deadline. We'll wait and see whether that happens. Other names that have been mentioned this month, Scott Robertson and James McCarthy. It's really that centre mid role, which we'll come on to in a wee second, that is looking difficult now for players to get game time. So this is kind of what we're looking at squad wise, and you may notice a relatively new name in there somewhere, so we'll come on to that in a wee minute. Real quality now in every position. I don't think you would have got many Celtic fans complaining had we not signed Haksabanovic and seemingly now Abildgaard. But bringing in both is just a major statement from Ange. Suddenly that deeper midfield role looks stacked. I mean, you've got real options there. A player last night who was excellent in Aaron Moy is, likely to be third choice. I know it doesn't always work exactly like that. And, there's versatility in some of the players there. But you look at a guy like Idiguchi now, and you wonder if you're ever going to see him play again, given that the options we have. And, yeah, I mean, real versatility. Jota can play on both sides. McGregor can play one further up, which is something I think we might see. Haksabanovic spoke about it the other day. He can play number 10. What a change from where the squad was a year ago, 13 months ago. It's totally remarkable now. This is as strong a Celtic squad as I can ever remember seeing. Maybe if you're being totally ultra hypercritical, we could have done with a third striker just in case of injury, but we do of course have Maida who can play there as well. So it's just a really, really strong squad. So what about that name in the middle that you may have just seen for the first time there? Chances are you've probably heard about it over the last 24 hours or so. Oliver Abildgaard, and I promise that name will become easier to say as time goes on. Murmurings of this yesterday, then earlier this morning, Fabrizio Romano tweeted, Celtic are now set to sign Danish midfielder Oliver Abildgaard. Deal in place, agreement has been reached, now waiting to sign contracts. He also included that photo which makes him look about 12, I would say. This image is a more recent one of him, although still from late 2020, but he does look a good bit older there. He's actually 26 years old. He's a Danish midfielder who came through Abildgaard's academy, their first team, before moving on to Rubin Kazan a couple of years ago. Quite simply, the headline here is that he is the profile of the deeper midfielder that most, if not every, Celtic fan has been craving this summer. That deeper midfielder who can break up the play and also start attacks. He's a big presence as well. He's 6'4", which is pretty much the same height as me. It's maybe slightly taller than me. So do me a favour, if you happen to bump into him in town, don't make the first thing you say to him, wow, you're taller than I thought you would be. Because us lanky lot find that very frustrating. I'm joking, of course, I don't really mind it. But he is a big presence. He's been capped once by Denmark, but it was the best part of 2 years ago. He's left-footed. He will know Karel Starfelt and Sead Haksabanovic from his time at Rubin Kazan. And it just seems, from what people are saying, like he is a very, very accomplished centre/defensive midfielder. I've seen a couple of Rubin Kazan fans, a couple of kind of Danish football experts as well on Twitter, and none of them have really had anything negative to say about him. So it seems like this could be a very important and pretty magical bit of deadline day recruitment for Celtic. Barring any late drama, he will be signed later today. Ange was asked about him specifically last night after the game. He replied saying, it's definitely a name, while also seeming to strongly hint that we will sign a player today. So you would suggest, putting two and two together here, that it would be Abildgaard. In other transfer news that kind of affects Celtic, Marian Shved of We Have a Million Wingers, Brendan Rodgers fame, has actually signed for our upcoming Champions League opponents, Shakhtar Donetsk, so that should be a good laugh when they face him. Otherwise, transfer deadline day, we'll hear some more daft names, I think, thrown up between now and the deadline, which is midnight. It's 11 o'clock in England, so any cross-border deals, Celtic players going down south will have to be completed before 11. Celtic can sign until 12. And yeah, we'll just get through it and into the weekend. We're going to go into overdrive on the channel over the next week or so, starting tomorrow when we'll have our big derby preview dropping. Somehow gone throughout this video and I don't think I've even mentioned the fact that we've got a derby in like less than 2 days now. So we'll do that big style tomorrow. We're going to release that at 2 p.m, so get it out nice and early. We'll also have a new regular Celtic pundit joining us next week. Obviously Jackie and Scott are continuing on the channel, but we're adding a third face. Any guesses who it could be? I've kind of hinted at it in various bits over the summer, but I'd be very surprised if you can work it out. I'm very careful with these things. And we've got a bit of a treat for you Aussies as well coming up at some stage over the next week with another relatively big name. So lots and lots happening. Get subbing, get liking, and we will be back tomorrow to preview the derby.